And in fact, we have had in many parts of this country widespread gun ownership for many years, including for various reasons, including security, without people taking the law into their own hands. So that's just not the reality of the situation.
Innocuous comments on guns and some people still losing their minds. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. Prime Minister Stephen Harper's comments that he made in Saskatchewan last week on firearms were pretty plain vanilla. And yet some people are still pulling their hair out over them, can't believe that the Prime Minister said anything positive about firearms and firearms ownership in Canada.
I don't know, Jen, am I misunderstanding? What does that mean? What is... He never answered. No, wait. Hang on. Okay, what does that mean?
Jen.
Okay, so
Jen still has a headache from it all.
no, but look at so it's not for hunting, and he could have said today it was for the bear that you need to kill because it's going to eat your toddler or maul your toddler, but he didn't say that.
What did he say? Well, some pretty plain words, some common sense that probably most people in the room at the meeting of the Rural Association of Municipalities in Saskatchewan probably just said, yeah, fine. In fact, there was no controversy at the time until those comments filtered back to Canada's urban areas where progressive commentators began to lose their minds because the Prime Minister said that, well, firearms are a tool used by certain people. He said that his wife is from a rural area and that he knows that guns weren't just for the farm, but also provided a certain level of security when you're a ways away from police protection. Well, for that, he's been accused of inciting vigilante justice by the likes of NDP leader Tom Mulcair, Liberal MP Wayne Easter. He's had former Ontario Attorney General Michael Bryant say that he's wrong on the law, wrong on the Constitution. No, Michael, you would be. Anyway, the latest is the Edmonton Journal claiming that, well, let me just read to you from their editorial. Someday it will be a matter of gobsmacking astonishment that people were still allowed to own guns in the early 21st century. Children will react with the same wide-eyed wonder that greets the great reveal about procreation. Older people will think they are being taken for fools and rush to Google the matter on their eyeglasses. Like bullets, they'll ask to make sure they understand. What were they thinking? They will wonder and be referred to a vast, largely psychological literature trying to explain how and why people could feel safer by accepting logic that allows everyone around them to also be armed. Is that what the Prime Minister was talking about? No, it's not. He's talking about people that live away from police protection, that the fact that they do own firearms does give them a certain amount of protection. Whether we're talking about farmers who are dealing with animals that attack their livestock or people that are attacking them. This is a matter of fact. Apparently the folks that are constantly criticizing the Prime Minister, accusing him of trying to engage in vigilante justice, have never read John Lott's seminal work on this, More Guns, Less Crime. No, they look to studies that lump in law-abiding gun owners with gangsters in inner cities like Chicago that shoot each other over drug deals gone bad. And then they come to the conclusion that a firearm in the home is more danger than safety feature. Well, once you take the top 3 counties in the United States out for murder, the United States murder rate falls, and it falls dramatically. But why are we always comparing the Canadian murder rate to the American murder rate, Canadian gun ownership to American gun ownership?
I think where this kind of demagoguery comes up is that people misunderstand the difference between our system in Canada and the system in the United States. Gun ownership in Canada is a responsibility. Unlike the United States, gun ownership is a right.
You know what's fascinating about all of this? Despite our strong gun laws in this country, the restrictions that the Americans don't have, there are places in this country where the murder rate is actually higher than the neighboring states with much freer gun laws, like, say, the Dakotas compared to Saskatchewan or Manitoba. But those would be facts that would get in the way of the good argument, the progressive argument that says, if I don't like something, you shouldn't be able to have it. Because that's what this comes down to, the knee-jerk reaction to try and ban something. Now, that often gets put forward as a conservative ideal. No, it's in fact a progressive ideal. And yet, remarkably, the Edmonton Journal is a place that calls for a ban on gun ownership, but supports heroin injection sites in Vancouver. They support the legalization of marijuana. They're fine with drugs, they're not fine with guns. even though most Canadian gun owners are law-abiding citizens, gun owners are far less likely to be involved in a murder. In fact, legal gun owners are less likely to use a gun in the commission of a crime than a police officer in this country. Did you know that fact? The Edmonton Journal might want to rush to the Google that they talk about. They might want to find those eyeglasses that they talk about and look up some of these facts before they rush off trying to shove their progressive agenda down the throats of the rest of the country. Edmonton Journal, that's what you should really be called.